Jason Michael is the software development manager at Checkfront, the world's foremost booking management platform for travel experiences, where he leads, coaches, and builds software teams. Currently, Jason is managing the teams responsible for revolutionizing how travel experience businesses manage their assets, staff, and resources, as well as support location management using Checkfront. Jason?
Thanks for the introduction, Mateus.
Yeah.
Well, hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. I've got a couple slides in the middle for questions, but feel free to ask throughout the presentation in the chat. And Mateus, feel free to bring it up at any point in time. So I guess we can get started. Hopefully everyone's having a good day. You get to enjoy some of the sun. So as mentioned in the description, during this session, I'll walk you through how to set yourself up for a successful first week with your new employer. I will outline the steps you can take to make a great first impression and what kind of support you should receive as a new hire. In addition, if you're already in a role, and you should be able to take away a plan to help set your next teammate up for success. So today, I'll be taking you through a few points to help you in your first week and beyond. I'll start with what exactly I mean by onboarding. Then I'll give you an insight into how Checkfront onboards new developers. I'll take you through our onboarding process, show you an example of our first week schedule. I'll share a bit about guilds and go through some first week targets. From there, we'll review how to set yourself up for success. This will include before you start and tips for your first week. And after that, we'll look forward to week 2 and how to take your successful week 1 and move forward. I also have some insider tips from some colleagues in the industry. And finally, some takeaways you can apply to your next role. So before we get started, I want to tell you a story about Dave. I used to work with Dave Russell. I think he's in here right now. Thanks for joining, Dave. So I used to work with Dave, and he's also presenting at Startup Slam this year. Be sure not to miss his presentation. Hopefully I'll see you there. So Dave came into our team looking to make big impact. At the time, we were planning on hiring aggressively and scaling up our developer team pretty quickly, which ultimately meant hiring a lot of new coworkers, and we had to support them. So if you've ever had a new job or a job, you know in the first week, it can be really nerve-wracking. When can I take my break? Where's the coffee? Am I wearing the right outfit, or am I overdressed? These are just some of the questions I've had when starting a new job. And starting a new job at a technology company is no different. And Dave recognized this and realized there's a lot of frequently asked questions that can be documented, and the ambiguity of who does what and how something works is removed. So we brought in this process that helped not only new hires, but the company as a whole. It's inevitable that new team members will join your team, and alleviating friction from their first day, week, or month can really make an impact of the happiness, satisfaction of everyone involved. So this process is typically called onboarding. Thanks, Dave, for supplying this great COVID picture. So onboarding is the process of integrating a new employee into the organization, its culture, and its culture. This involves obtaining knowledge, developing your skills, and integrating with the company culture. So this is where companies can communicate policies and procedures and company goals, inform you of new hires of what projects your company is working on, and show them how they can fit into the grand scheme of the company. This offers them a sense of identity and belonging within the organization. Next, you can inform them of your expectations and the tasks they'll be undertaking, along with documentation and resources to support them through this transition. This gives new hires a sense of self-efficacy. In order for onboarding to be effective, employees must help their onboarding or their own onboarding process by interacting with coworkers socially. So involving themselves in functions involving other employees. This could be coffees or some social events, or just hanging out in the kitchen. So at Checkfront, our onboarding process is scalable and an evolving practice that reflects our development culture. In particular, it outlines our expectations for processes, habits, and values. A new hire and a seasoned employee should both find onboarding helpful. To start, an onboarding coach is assigned from the same team as a new developer. A rotation of developers sign up for each onboarding of our tech stack. This introduces new hires to peers and resources. And there's a document outlining everything we're about to touch on. So all new hires go through a pretty similar schedule in the first week. Here is the developer first week timetable. Our hires typically start on Tuesday, and we start with a company overview where new hires learn about the business and some policies. The rest of the afternoon is dedicated to creating a pull request. We typically give our devs something small enough that they'll be able to get into the code, complete, get it reviewed and QA'd, so the next day they can merge it into master or the main branch and release it. Releasing to production ASAP empowers a new hire to help them dig into the code fearlessly because they know that the tools in the team are there for support. It instills the dev culture that we get shit done, and we are responsible for our own code in production. So by Wednesday, we onboard our new developers to each of our technology stacks, including PHP, JavaScript, and Agile for us, part of a process. All new hires also have an onboarding session with each department, ideally grouped and held on Thursday, but this isn't always practice. By Friday, new developers continue to take on tasks where they can pair with their onboarding coach and ask questions. So our DevOps timetable is very similar with a few exceptions. We get them looking at our infrastructure on the second day. We also go through our on-call and fire alarm process. So at Checkfront, we utilize guilds to help onboard our new hires. Guilds are cross-team groups of people interested in the same topic. Guilds are our concept first established by Shopify in 2012 as a mechanism to reduce silos between agile development teams. They are a way for teams to share best practices around the tech, the teams, or the code, and some best practices there. So for each technical onboarding session, and this is just an example of our JavaScript onboarding session, a guild rep should be able to confidently and successfully run the onboarding session by following a guide. And a new hire should feel comfortable navigating our primary JavaScript code base, confidently moving from product view to the relevant JavaScript code that contributes to that view, and also be knowledgeable about the basics of writing and maintaining JavaScript code. Again, there's a similar guide for other guilds. We have a constantly growing list of guilds. We have a security guild, an SQL guild, performance, architecture. So each of those will be introduced to the new hire in the first week. So this process is self-sustaining. The documentation is all geared towards the coach, not the new hire. And the next time the onboarding coach will be the new hire from this time. So it's ever evolving. So by day one, a new hire should have their development environment complete and ready for work. They will have submitted and deployed code to production. By day two, they'll know how to work with their team and other teams in the department. They will know how to write, release, and support idiomatic code at Checkfront, and they will know how their code is run in production. By the first week, they should be comfortable navigating our primary code base, and they should know our processes required to get code into production. They will also have a good understanding of the product and the other departments and how they contribute to the success of the company. And this onboarding process is scalable up to at least 100 developers. As mentioned, this process evolves over time and should be revised as needed. So it's worth mentioning the role of the onboarding coach is instrumental to achieving these targets. So here are some other noteworthy resources also mentioned in our onboarding guide. We have a development career progression plan. This is outlining not only the roles and responsibilities of every role. So we have a junior developer, intermediate developer, for example, senior, lead, so forth. It helps them advance in their career and know what they need to, how they're being measured, and what they need to do to grow into the next role. We also have a development team expectations and core values page that outlines like what our expectations of being a team member is in our department. We also have some core metrics on how to do our firefighting process. Firefighting is like when something urgent goes wrong, some critical feature, the software's down, something like that. So we have a really well-defined process that tells you who to call, what's Slack messages to send, and where to do that. We have a document on setting up the VPN and how to work effectively at home, especially during COVID. That's really important. We have a document specifically how to set up and use Slack, which channels the development department uses, and what type of information we use in which channels, as well as some security. Because we have to be PCI compliant and we abide by their compliance regimes all around the world, we have to make sure that our team understands the impact of that. So we also have some additional resources and how-tos about how to do effective code review, how to test with Cypress, and working effectively with others. So I'm going to take a quick pause at this point in time. Does anyone have any questions? So the question was, is there an onboarding experience at Checkfront the same as you've experienced when being onboarded with other companies you work for? Great question. It's very similar. I had the opportunity to speak with Alana from Dispatch before this, and they do some very similar things where they have, say, emails that go out to new hires on a schedule, like first day, first week, first month. They also have like a Trello board of tasks the new hires do, and they drag that around on their first week. This schedule is a little bit different than what I've seen in other companies. Also, I haven't actually seen guilds at other companies, but I think they're more common in larger dev teams that are like 50 persons or more. Did that answer your question? I left way too much room for questions, so please ask anything you might want to know thus far. Otherwise, we're going to be done early. All right. Nope. Who's organizing these guild meetings? Great question. The guild meetings are organized by people interested. So anyone interested in, say, JavaScript or optimizing SQL, they'll set up their own meetings. They'll set up their own agenda and topics, and a representative of that guild meeting will onboard the new developer or the new hire. So it's usually representative of that guild. Has COVID changed onboarding? Absolutely. At least for our experience, we have a new developer that got hired in Vancouver. It's the first time hiring remote workers where we weren't able to bring them into the office for a week. So, doing a lot more Zoom meetings, a lot of screen sharing, a lot of pairing. I think I mentioned it briefly where on the first week, you have an opportunity to pair with your onboarding coach. It's a lot more of that. What is the average stress level for a new hire in your opinion? Well, I haven't actually started a new role in quite some time, so I hope I can answer that from asking how the new hires have felt onboarding to my team. We have this pretty well-defined process that hopefully sets like their expectations really clearly. They shouldn't go home feeling stressed or panicking. They should know exactly what they need to do and achieve on the first week. And we don't have any crazy expectations that you don't need to make a huge splash or impact on the first week. We're not expecting them to like revolutionize how we do stuff. And I think we make that pretty clear. Hopefully that answered your question, Brandon. Yeah, I'd say low. I'd hope, at least. If it's not low, then maybe we're not doing a good job, or as good a job as we could be. All right, I'll continue if there's. Oh yeah, sure. Follow-up question. What about their industry as a whole? The industry as a whole? What do you mean? Stress level for new hires, or just the stress level like in the existing industry overall? Yeah, it's a bit of a roller coaster. I'd hope that everyone isn't stressed. I've as a manager of a team of 7 or 8 direct reports, like the individual health of every one of my team members is super important to me. So if they need to take time off, they need to take breaks. Everyone's got families. A lot of people have kids or pets that they need to take care of, and that's number one. Absolutely, families first. So I hope that Checkfront isn't adding any additional stress. And it definitely took a few weeks to kind of get into a rhythm of work from home, working with your team online. We weren't drinking beers in the office. We had to kind of figure out ways to socialize over Zoom and other means. Daniel has a question. How do you suggest new hires balance between asking enough questions to help figure things out and get clarity without wanting to look clueless? I get worried sometimes that asking a lot of questions. I totally get that. What's the balance? If you can, hopefully the company has good documentation, and if you can find the answers to those questions in the documentation, then hopefully you won't have to ask it to someone else. But if you can't find it or right away, or if someone can't direct you to the documentation to answer your question right away or like pretty quickly, then I think it's absolutely worth asking as many questions as you need to. I'll share a story in a sec here about a similar case I've had, but I do onboarding, departmental onboarding for any new hire that comes into customer success, customer support, marketing, and I always make myself super available and for them to ask questions. And a lot of the time they don't take me up on that. So I really appreciate it, to be honest. So I think a lot of people are scared of even asking one question. So Daniel, I'd say like ask as many as you need to. In practice, how important is the onboarding coach? Yeah, I think I mentioned it's instrumental to the onboarding process. Thanks, Dave. Without that hands-on experience or like interaction with the onboarding coach, a new hire can kind of feel lost within the team. So, we're not trying to handhold them by any means, but they should feel really comfortable because of the onboarding coach. The onboarding coach can help them through the tech onboarding sessions, PHP, JavaScript. A lot of other departments do something very, very similar. Hopefully I answered your question there, Dave. Thanks for asking. So I'll continue, but if you have any more questions, we can hold them till the end. We got lots of time. So I'll never forget my first week as a co-op at a local tech company. At the time, this company was just starting to rebuild their entire application in JavaScript and C#. But I was working on some of the legacy technology, and we were still using VB.NET, Microsoft SQL, and there was a ton of stored procedures. And I was so unbelievably excited and at the same time incredibly nervous. And I didn't want to make a mistake, do something stupid. And I thought at the time that nothing I learned in school could help me. And similar to, I think it was Daniel, how many questions do I ask? And I was so nervous, like I thought I had to know all the answers. So I don't remember the exact task on my first week, but I believe I had to add a column to a table in a database, and it was supposed to be a GUID. And I was so lucky that my soon-to-be boss, who had just been hired the same day, or just started the same day, he overheard the task I was given, and he noticed me like frantically not knowing what a GUID was, and he sent me a bunch of documentation to help me along. That company didn't have any onboarding schedules, so to answer another question earlier on, not every company has documentation ready to go. They don't have, a schedule. They don't have guilds and how to like navigate your code base. This is, I want to say not unique, but I think it's not. Not every company has that. So one of the biggest things I learned through post-secondary and earlier than that is how to look something up. Googling it is not something you should be ashamed of doing by any means. There's other tools, forums, Slack. There's YYJ Slack, for example. Tons of great channels. You can ask questions. So look it up, ask questions. So let's try and set you up for success. There are a lot of different approaches on how to spend your first week. And at the end of the day, be yourself and put your own spin on it. Think about what's important to you and what you want to learn about. So how to set yourself up for a new role before you start. Starting a new job involves homework that you can take on. While you've likely researched and reviewed the company, While you've likely researched and reviewed the company you're starting with for your interview, this is a chance to dive in a bit deeper. Some things you can do beforehand are ask what you can learn about. Is there any documentation they can share? Sometimes companies will share the code base, so you can dig into it beforehand. Do some refresh on the technologies or the tools that they use. Maybe they're using something like Pendo or GitHub or Bitbucket. Pull up and read some documentation from whatever libraries they might be using. Find tutorials to help guide you. And again, write down some questions that you need to get answered. Learn about the business model. I think this is something that's often overlooked. Understand how the product is priced. Is it a single one-time fee? Is it a SaaS, software as a service? What are the SaaS plans? What tiers of company do they cater for? What type of customers is the company in business targeting? What are the verticals? For example, in Checkfront, we target primarily tourism and activities, but we also have rentals and accommodations. We have a really broad spectrum of verticals. So what are the pain points and requests from customers? And what are they looking for that the company is missing? So also, don't set too high of expectations. There's a lot to take in on your first week. Bring water. Take notes and organize them. I use Google Keep, but Evernote is also awesome, or a wiki or a document. Write down your questions and find the answers, and make sure they get answered. And try to put them in a wiki if they're not already there, because it's likely that someone else will have the same questions. Last but very, very not least is sign up for a trial and play with the system. Pro tip, do this before your interview. It's so shocking how many people show up to interviews and they haven't even played with the system. You can learn a lot about a tech company and what their software does just by signing up for a trial. So if they have free trials, sign up. If they don't, then see if you can get access early. So going into your first week, here are some developer-tailored questions that will not only make you look like you know what you're talking about, but it'll help elevate your knowledge about the department. So why did the company pick the technology stack? Learn and understand the technical decisions of why they picked PHP or JavaScript or Google Cloud, whatever it might be. Does the company have a architecture diagram? Do they have any diagrams explaining how the system works? Is there an ERD, an entity relationship diagram? Is there a well-defined data model? Which IDs do they use? This is like your development environment. Use them, get familiar with them, request or schedule pairing with your new teammates. You're often, hopefully, you have a team of multiple developers in addition to your onboarding coach. Pair with every single one of them in the first couple of weeks. Get to know their styles and their tips and tricks. And know what's expected of you and how you can grow in your career. This kind of goes back to that career ladder. Do they have well-defined roles? Is there a company career ladder? What are the key performance indicators, KPIs? What are the success metrics that are going to make sure you know you're doing a good job and you're not doing something different than what your manager is expecting? So bookmark web pages. This could be logs, it could be metrics, the Git repository, project management tools, how-tos or guides, and any HR tools like Bamboo or whatever the company might use. Also read the knowledge base, or at least the relevant parts to your role. It could be quite large. So now that you made it through your first week, you should be able to help contribute to the experience of the next person going through the onboarding process. It's not necessarily your job to help improve the onboarding experience, but it is invaluable and makes a huge impact. So go into your second week with feedback for your manager on how to improve the first week onboard experience for the next person. If there's no setup guide, write down the steps you took and put it into a README or a wiki, or add it to Confluence or whatever tools they might use. Continue learning about the business. It's just as important as the technology. What are the core values of the company, and what other departments does the company have, and how will you interact with them? And again, I think I've mentioned this probably 5 or 6 times. Ask questions. Don't be shy, and because if you don't ask them, they might take months to get answered, and you might not ever get the answer. So in preparation for today, I had a chance to connect with some colleagues regarding their first week on the job, and they have some recommendations for you as well. So hopefully this audio comes through. I might have to turn my speakers up.
If I could go back and give myself some advice on the first day of a job, it would likely be smile, relax, get to know the people you're going to be working with, and understand that you're not going to move mountains in your first day. You'll have plenty of time to prove yourself, and be prepared to soak in a lot of knowledge of the industry and the company that you're joining.
Thanks, Brandon.
Hey there. So one piece of advice, be the guy that brings donuts the first day. You'll make friends instantly. Not those Tim Hortons donuts. Get Empire or maybe Yanni's donuts from Discovery Coffee. You don't want to mess around with that. But also, I guess, real work stuff. You should get to know what you're working on before you get there. Like, just have a brief idea, and possibly prep tool-wise for supporting software and stuff like that you may need. Okay, hope that helped.
Thanks, Bridge.
One piece of advice that I can give you for starting a new role at a tech company is to come in with a plan on things that you want to do a deeper dive on. Often the first few days or even weeks of onboarding can be a little bit light on work. So it's really empowering to have some things in mind that you want to spend some time learning about. Some examples of that can be competitors. How is their product technologically different? How do they show up in the news? Have they made any interesting moves? Spend some time on the About Us page, get to know your coworkers' faces and their names, learn some of their backgrounds, take note of who the executives are, who the board members are. And also take a lot of time to really dig into what the company you've just joined has done in the past, because that will teach you a lot. This is all stuff that you'll learn over years at the company, but if you can go in with the mindset of learning that stuff as early as possible, you'll really set yourself up for success. Have fun.
Thanks, Angela. So in summary, on your end, there are a few things you should focus during your onboarding. Take it slow. Don't kill yourself. It's only the first week. You're not expected to make a meaningful impact right away. Listen closely. Your onboarding coach is spending time to help you get set up for success. Respect their time by paying attention, taking notes, and be sure to absorb their knowledge. And have fun. It's a new job that's so exciting. Get to know the people you'll be spending time with, because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them. And be humble. There's plenty of time to shine. You have a lot to learn, so don't show off. So you can make a huge impact on the company you work for just by listening, taking notes, organizing your thoughts, planning a sample day, and giving feedback. Onboarding requires constant improvement and is an ever-evolving process that goes beyond your own onboarding week. Thanks so much for joining me today. As a development manager, it is a fundamental part of my role to help people get started and grow their careers. So please do not hesitate to reach out via Slack, email, or LinkedIn if you have any more questions on how to set yourself up for success. So thank you, Mateus and the Startup Slam, for having me here today. And I'm happy to answer any additional questions or talk a little bit about how I came to contribute to Checkfront's onboarding experiences and how I became a people manager, whatever you might want to know.
All right, so we can have some more questions in the chat. So everyone, feel free to add them, and then Jason will get to them. In the meantime, I just would like to remind everyone that the Talk to an Expert roundtables are happening all day, and you can sign up at the registration desk on the Hopin. You can find that in the reception hall.
I was honored to talk to the expert last year. It was really awesome. I highly recommend taking the opportunity. So Daniel asked, one thing that my company did during onboarding was neat. They had new hires use the software and fill a user survey so they can get some info about their user experience and the new hires. Oh, that was a great tip. Thanks, Daniel. Mateus, do you know if this recording will be posted?
I do not know, but I do want to get my hands on those recordings as well.
I believe they will. Why else would they record them, right?
I can message some people here and then hopefully get the answer back soon.
I couldn't agree more, Dominique. I take a lot of notes myself. I go through several notebooks, and I started moving my notes to more digital and like Markdown, whatever works for you, really. Google Docs. A lot of my team members also, even after years of working, take notes on a day-to-day. How long do you expect a new hire to take to become productive? Smaller startups need to get that code. Great question. And obviously that depends on the company. I think in the past we've kind of assumed it'll take like 3 months to really understand our code base because it's so massive, and our product because it's so massive. I think we have something like 120 unique views in our product. So, but like I said, we also get people coding on the first week. So productive is instant. Productivity is instant. You should be making small impacts right away. Who first told you to take journal notes? I don't remember. Let me think about that. Is Checkpoint unique in having the last new hire train the next hire? You know what? I wish I knew that answer. I believe this process was taken from Hootsuite. So I don't think it's unique. As it pertains to Victoria, I'm not sure. Like I said, I was able to talk to Alana at Dispatch, and I spoke to Bridge at Kixeye about their onboarding process, and I don't think they do it quite the same. Can we jump in to ask something? Oh, I think you're going to ask. Yeah, do you want to talk with audio? Here, I'll see if I can add you.
Just 1 second. I just got a response from Alana.
Okay.
This session will be and will be posted in the LinkedIn group. I sent the link in the chat. Okay.
Hi there. Go ahead and ask your question.
Hi guys, how are you? Thanks a lot for the insights and the information you shared, and thank you for organizing this. So I'm a newcomer to Canada, so I don't know exactly like where I come from. Usually, it depends on, of course, the job and everything. But I'm wondering in Canada, how much do people spend when they start the job on training and like getting into the company and learning new things, then doing task and start like having the accountability and finishing things and setting I'm not talking, let's say, not from a, if someone is a very entry level, of course they're gonna have a lot of time on learning, but let's say someone who's doing something like with tech, like customer support, customer experience, things like intermediate stuff, like how much time in general in Canada, like would you say the first 3 days, would you first the first week, would you say it depends?
Yeah, great question. I often share practices with our customer success team and our customer support team because they're interacting with customers, and it's very, very similar. Like I said, we get people coding right away. We had a co-op student start in early September, and he hit the ground running. He's excelling so fast, and part of that is us setting him up for success by having small tickets to be able to work on and good documentation so he knows what to do. In our customer support departments, I believe that they start training about of the product. We have a lot of training sessions right away. So they can understand the product in the first week, and then I'm pretty sure they start answering tickets that get peer reviewed before they get sent out in the first week. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure like second week they should be getting into it. And I'd say probably after the first month, some training wheel like things will come off. Maybe they get less help, but.
Well, your co-op student, you said the documentation. You said we gave them documentation. Did you like what? Do you think it's like was like a 2 days in the beginning? You just like read the documentation, or was it like something they had to do before they start?
Everyone's different. Some people take the documentation and jump into all of it. There's a lot. We have. I mean, I don't know how many pages we have, but we have a reasonable amount of documentation, and not all of it's relevant, right? So they didn't spend 2 days heads down reading documentation. They read what was necessary, and they focus on the tasks. And as they learn new areas and need to pick up new things, they'll read other areas.
What about things like product manager, or like if you're a tech lead, or like would you say yeah, like things like if you're not a CTO or something, like if you're with a company and you're not doing like a very critical role, but like you're a product manager or a tech lead, how would you say it's the how is the process?
Yeah, great question. It always depends on the role. You mentioned product manager. They'll probably spend a lot more time focusing on the product, right? They'll probably go through extensive training as well, but it depends on what areas they're going to be doing product management. Are they doing greenfield, new stuff? Maybe they don't need to focus on the existing product as much, right?
Okay, but there's no, you don't have in mind an example of, for example, in your company, is it a week or is it 2 weeks? Is it 3 days thing? Um,
Yeah, I don't want to be too prescriptive about it because everyone's different and every company is different. So we might be able to onboard a new product manager in, say, a couple days, maybe a week. But the next one might be different, and I don't think we're going to hold that against them, right?
okay, and depends on what, let's say this time, is it depends on their experience or skills, or is it if you are actually bringing or creating a new product, so you need, is it what was it the most factor, let's say, plays in this?
I think it depends on the project or product they might be working on. There might be documentation. Maybe they're starting fresh and have to do a bunch of user research, right? Hopefully, any company will have good documentation and training to get them into the product as soon as fast as possible with like the broadest amount of knowledge they can. And hopefully the expectation isn't that they're, again, productive the first week, because it's just not realistic. It's so much pressure on the new hire.
Because I don't know, we as a newcomer, we hear like a lot about like how I know in Canada, like things where I come from is a lot slower. So here, like what I see is like things are very fast, and when company want to hire someone, they want to use them like right away. So that's why I was curious about. Do you have any tip for, let's say, someone who's gonna join a company in the beginning, like? What other than the documentation they gonna go through? Like I'm someone who, whoever I worked before, I spent a lot of time with other people, ask them around like annoying developers and annoying people in the team, but like because again, where I come from, things are slow. So like when I pop into like someone and stop them for 15 minutes from doing their work, that is fine usually. Like here, I'm assuming it's a bit, it's, you cannot just like keep randomly popping from people and ask them, right? It doesn't work like this a lot, right?
I mean, every company is different. We have, when we're actually in the office, we're not right now. We have, people right beside you, behind you, in front of you. You can ask questions. You can poke them. Like, hopefully, it's not an every 5-minute thing. But again, that's what the onboarding coach is so important. It takes a lot of time out of their week, and I've seen productivity of onboarding coach like drastically drop, but that's okay because we're trying to set the new hire up for success. I'm happy to keep talking. I've got a couple more questions in the chat here.
Yeah,
if anyone else wants to jump on video as well. Yeah. So the question was, what differences, if any, are there when onboarding a short-term or temporary employee, for example, an intern or a co-op student, as compared to a permanent employee? And for the intern, should they be approaching the onboarding any differently than they would for a permanent position? I think I kind of touched on that. Hopefully I answered that a little bit by saying our co-op student who started in September, and we've had a couple of co-ops. They always do the same process. We never do a different process because it should be that easy, and it should be that like welcoming. It's not. We've had such great success with our co-ops and interns that I think it's a great sign of the health of our onboarding process. Hopefully it's not too hard. Does anyone else want to chat? I think we got plenty of time. Happy to hang out. How's your day been, Mateus? Oh, I read her question. Sorry, his third question. Awesome. Yeah, I love working with students and high school students. We've had great success at the Checkfront, as well as co-op, university. We hire post-secondary students from from Camosun, University of Victoria, BCIT, UBC. We have postings open right now as well. If you're a co-op student looking to be hired, that'd be awesome. Hopefully see your resume. Glad you found it helpful. Again, please feel free to reach out on Slack or LinkedIn. I'll be there. And don't forget to check out Dave Russell's chat. He is super knowledgeable. I would work with that man any day. He's been a great mentor. Just a little bit of awkward silence.
Looks like we have a question from you there. Insider knowledge. I know you drove the career ladder hard at Checkfront. Why did you feel strongly that it was formalized?
Yeah, great question. I started at Checkfront when we didn't have good onboarding. We didn't have a career ladder. I was a intermediate developer, and I was coming in like hoping to become a lead developer for a team. And I had no idea how to get there. I didn't know what the timelines typically were, like what type of stuff I should be doing to get there. And when I became a software development manager, I worked really closely with Dave on this and the whole team. I got feedback from every developer on the team, as well as peers from other departments. It was so important to me that all of my direct reports and all of the other people in the department were able to advance their career. It became really, really apparent that it wasn't like my success was directly correlated to my team's success and their growth. So stuff like, training and other professional development, knowing what to do, like lunch and learns, guild meetings, how to act to other teammates. How easy is it for new employees to update onboarding? For example, a new hire from a new unique perspective goes through onboarding process and sees something's missing. How easy is it for them to suggest or change updates or make updates? The easiest. So we use Confluence, which is an Atlassian product, and it's pretty much just a wiki. Everyone has full edit access. As long as it's not drastic, and even if it is drastic, like hopefully they work with their manager and be like, hey, what do you think of this? Like I had this idea, like this part doesn't really make sense. Oh, you know what? These lines are totally wrong. Like everyone is very, very welcome to update that process. Like I said, we just hired actually someone last week. We totally actually forgot to give them an onboarding coach until like the day of, and instantly they were making changes to our documentation. I think all of our guilds actually made huge changes to the documentation because we don't always do it often, and we find stuff that comes up in the guild meetings or the onboarding guilds that isn't in the documentation. So we make sure we do our best to keep it up to date. And we always appreciate new perspectives. So hopefully that helps.